Week 3 of Stage 2 kicked off last night with 4 games that uninspiringly but predictably were as one-sided as I and most others imagined, which was the main reason why I didn't upload a preview last night. That said, let's break down what happened in each series before I give you my predictions for Day 2 of this second week. The curtain raiser for Week 3 saw the New York Excelsior take on the Philadelphia Fusion in a rematch of their series from just a couple of weeks ago, which saw the Excelsior come out on top, convincing 4-0 winners, with the Fusion playing particularly poorly. And a similar script appeared to re-emerge initially on the first map, Busan, where New York was simply the stronger of the two sides on 3-3, as they quickly took round 1. The second round though was far more competitive, with both sides reaching 99% after some good team play from Philly, but a lapse in concentration cost them, as they allowed themselves to be grabbed off point as they C9'd and handed over an early 1-0 lead to the Excelsior. I did sense, however, from here on, the Fusion found themselves growing into the tie a lot more, so they were able to complete the first map first time round on Anubis. But New York's quality again was clearly the better of the two sides, with Jonak having a very strong series, with a number of crucial picks for won teamfights outright, as their large time bank advantage saw them capture their needed percentage to take a 2-0 lead into the half. Blizzard World was a very interesting watch after the break, as both sides showed off an incredible amount of patience on the 3-3 matchup. Halfway through the map, the team spent a good minute and a half in one teamfight, with great disengages and ultimate management that highlighted what these sides could do at their best. This also took a lot of time off the clock, and after Sado put aside recent criticism on him and dominated in the final teamfight, Philly had held the Excelsior to just before the end of the map. In their own attack, the Fusion weren't exactly brilliant, but twice managed to scrape through at the last second thanks to players like Poco coming up with important kills, and this meant that there was one final fight for them to win the map. And it was Sado again who came up clutch, with Boombox forcing New York to use their ultimates first before Philly countered to wipe their opposition and take the map to make the score 2-1. This momentum couldn't be carried forward however onto Gibraltar, with the key moment coming as New York reversed losing 2 of their supports with a Nene Grav, Mano Shatter and Meko Bomb into a hold after the first corner in the dip. Philadelphia could not recover to advance the payload any further, and the Excelsior easily managed to make the distance to confirm the 3-1 series win and continue their unbeaten regular season, against what was a much better and improved performance from Philly compared to the past 2 weeks. However, our second series of the day was as far from competitive as it could have possibly been, as the San Francisco Shock faced the Toronto Defiant, with both sides having completely opposite runs of form of late. This was unsurprisingly another stomp by the Shock, who had little trouble in blitzing through their opponents to a 4-0 victory. Toronto didn't really ever have a sniff of sustained success, and the highlight of this dominating display came on Eichenwald, where after making some progress after capping the first point, the Defiant were wiped and subsequently spawn camped for the rest of their attack, with Super and Sinatra having a field day, and even as a neutral, this was upsetting to watch. Toronto's struggles this stage are alarming, as they continue to be struggling with their much more difficult schedule, with the team just not looking to be on the same page, particularly around Yakpum, as they end up in a lot of scrappy fights. San Francisco, on the other hand, have established their 3-3 GOATS comp as arguably the most terrifying in the league, and I've been very impressed and fascinated of late by their incorporation of Baptiste into their 3-3 instead of Brick, with Rascal making very good use of his healing and damage potential to sustain engagements longer, whilst using his abilities to make their aggression more potent and deadly, as the Shock head into the playoffs clearly as one of the best. Game 3 of this first day saw the Florida Mayhem go against the LA Gladiators, again with both sides having opposite fortunes of late, with Florida continuing in their slump of poor performances, whilst LA was still unbeaten this stage, rebounding in very strong fashion after a disappointing first stage. The first map on Busan caught me off guard, as it was the Mayhem who came out looking the stronger of the two sides, and surprisingly it was behind their tank line of Swan, Zephyr and BQB who were the top performers, as they particularly focused down Raw in taking round 1 before BQB Sombra proved too much for the Gladiators to counter, as they found themselves down a map early. From here on, however, LA took control of the series on the back of some efficient displays on defense. Whilst Florida were able to make some progress through the next 3 maps, it was never quick and simple and required a large investment of resources and time, with the Gladiators consequently holding firm on each occasion. On the flip side, what was very impressive from LA was the way they ran their offenses, which were very clean and precise as they completed those remaining 3 maps, each more convincingly than the last, Decay having another strong series on Zarya after a few pop-off moments on Widow, when his side claimed Paris. On the final 2 maps, it was Raw who led the shutdown of the Mayhem's attack, with aggressive pressure onto Swan that resulted in Florida collapsing as the Gladiators picked up 3 consecutive maps to take the series 3-1. The result, although a loss, shows glimpses of what Mayhem could perhaps work towards after a difficult time for this team so far. And whilst the Gladiators show they still haven't reached the level of quality of the teams like the Shock, Titans or Excelsior just yet, they are by far and away the next best team that is clearly leading the chasing pack. Week 3's opening day conclusion saw the Vancouver Titans versus the Dallas Fuel, in a series that I thought could be one of the tougher tests for the Titans to face, and simply put, I was wrong. In typical Vancouver fashion, they dictated the tempo of the game behind bumper with their 3-3 goats, and found themselves quickly up 2-0 at the half time, after some dominant displays on Li Jiang and Hanamura. To give credit to the Fuel, I don't actually think that their performance was that bad. It was more down to the quality of Vancouver. This was best shown on Blizzard World, but after a rapid Titans attack, Dallas were able to respond in kind, with OG and Note in particular standing out with another great display from the tank duo, as they took the fight to the Titans and forced players like Bumper, Xiaomin Su into mistakes as Note picked up 2 grav eats. In the end though, despite the spirited effort, again Vancouver, as I've become used to saying, clutched in the final teamfight and crucial moment to secure the map and thus a win with a lead of 3-0. With their undefeated streak still safe, the team finished the series off nicely despite not finishing the map Junkertown, so they won the final teamfight on the back of a Bumper Earth Shatter. We haven't heard that before, to clinch the series 4-0 and continue their march to the playoffs. As for Dallas, they shouldn't be disheartened after a solid display in the 3-3 matchup, but it's their game against Seoul that will still truly tell us if this team should be considered as a legit contender or not. My predictions were unsurprisingly all correct after this one-sided day, but looking towards my predictions for tomorrow's games, we start with the New York Excelsior against the Atlanta Reign, and I have no trouble in thinking this will end 4-0 in New York's favour. But it is from this series that I will quickly mention the news surrounding Daco at the moment. There have been reports lately that suggest that the reason that Daco has been absent from the lineup was due to behavioural issues, and he is subsequently being punished for. These accusations have been categorically denied by the player, whilst the team have made no comment. This whole situation feels eerily similar to Fischer's at the end of his spell at the Gladiators, and it's seemingly having a similar effect, with the team's fortunes taking a hit. If this ends up being true, I think that Atlanta need to quickly make a decision to either trade him or publicly explain the situation and his punishment. Otherwise this dark cloud will burden the Reign for quite some time and will probably continue to negatively affect the side. The next series sees the Philadelphia Fusion take on the Houston Outlaws, and I think despite some inconsistent displays, both sides will perform in a 3-2 5-map series. The Philly will just nick in the end. The Valiant then face the Washington Justice, and I think that the LA side will continue their form from last week to a 3-1 win before the Hangzhou Spark finish the day with a 3-1 win themselves over the free-falling Guangzhou Charge. With that, we've reached the end of my Day 1 review and Day 2 preview, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back again tomorrow to review Day 2 and preview Day 3. Otherwise, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed for this continuing Overwatch League content.